against, but ain't nobody stopping me. That's how I go when you pay for them shows and you study that.
All right, March Pups, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Dead on Dave, and we be live on this Monday, January 27, 2020, and that would be the day after the Royal Rumble last night. Now, why am I here doing it must be special if I'm here doing a review. Even after 12 hours, 15, 16 hours, whatever it's been since the Rumble, this must be special if I am doing a review after this much time, which I typically don't do. And thank you very much for the host, Mr. Fake Ass Twat. I appreciate you, who made the wonderful frame and thumbnails that you guys see in the program. Yeah. The reality is we did get something special, and I knew the second I went live, Tommy fucking C would call. Can you please get the phone? Can you please get the phone? Can you please get the fucking phone? Oh my God, I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew it in my goddamn heart. Tell him I'm doing a show. Tell him I'm doing a show. Oh, I knew the second I went live. I just felt it in my bones. I felt it in my fucking bones. Oh, I knew it. I felt it deep down in my fucking bones, man. I wanted to upload this so bad, too. All right, we are live right now for this wonderful review of the Royal Rumble last night. Typically, I take his call, but I'm doing a review. I'm doing a live review of the Royal Rumble last night, so it didn't make it an easy thing for me to do. All right, so the Royal Rumble really did have a special quality to it last night. It had something that I think has been missing not only from the Royal Rumble the last few years, but also just wrestling in general, at least for a while for me. You know what I mean? It's just like I felt the last couple of years, my love of wrestling kind of waning, and not even the love of wrestling, just my ability to tolerate it, just my ability to sit through it. And just continue to cover it and continue to say the same things, because that's all we ever get is the same things. And even in a case like this, we're still going to be saying the same things, but at least there's energy. At least there's fire. At least there's something there that makes it special, that makes it interesting. And it's not just the obvious. Now, look, we might as well start with the biggest thing that happened last night for a lot of people, and that's the return of Edge, which, if you have been paying attention, you would know that it was kind of spoiled. You know, we're talking a month, 2 ago, all the reports were coming out about Edge being not only medically cleared, but apparently signing a deal with WWE for significant money, which he denied vehemently. For the past 2-3 months, Edge has gone on social media. He's gone on his own podcast. He's gone anywhere that would hear him out that he is not returning to wrestling. You're all a bunch of idiots, although he is totally perfectly fine physically and willing and able to do it if he wanted to. So Edge is the smartest man in the room right now. And here's the exact reason why. He put out the information to let everybody know that he was healthy, that he was able to take bumps, that he was able to be Edge once again. And then he went and he used that information that he put out himself, and he took offers from AEW, which is also reported to have had happened. Now, we don't know if he actually did or not, but if he didn't, he's an irresponsible businessman. Because I'm giving him credit for being the rated R superstar that we know. I'm giving him credit for being that ultra genius, that super smart guy who's always thinking about these type of things. Because you put that information out and then you let the offers come to you. You know your self-worth, especially if you're Edge. If you're a guy who's already a Hall of Famer, if you're a guy who's already done the things that Edge has done in his career, you know who you are. You know what you're worth, and you know that there's a new company in town that is desperately needing a marquee star. And yeah, I'm talking about AEW. I don't want to hear anything. There is not a marquee main star that can catapult that company to the top. There's just not. It's not Cody. It's not MJ fucking Miz. It's not Omega. Omega has been on the ultimate cooler ever since AEW was even established. There's not a major star. We can argue, you guys can tell me I'm wrong. It's a matter of opinion, but the numbers don't fucking lie. They can't draw 1 million. They can't do it. And I guarantee if someone like Punk, if someone like Edge, if someone like Cena, The Rock, one of these guys were to show up, they would start drawing those type of numbers because they are lacking that major star quality. And it's certainly not Jericho, twat. It's certainly not Jericho. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not Jericho. Jericho's that next level. He's that underneath. He's underneath Edge. Sorry, Edge had a better career than Jericho. Edge has had a better career than Jericho. He just has. He just has. And I love Chris Jericho. But his career is a little overblown at times. He's that next level. Edge is a transformational talent. His energy, his aura, his ability to speak, his ability to create, his ability to work in the ring and do things that other people simply weren't able to do is what separated him and brought him to that next level of awesomeness. The era of awesomeness that Edge has always been able to bring in. And it's something that WWE has been missing for a while. Those stars are waning just in general. They're not there anymore. Edge was able to use his platforms to put out the information and then let these fucking offers come to him. And he found the best one. He decided to go home. And he brought his wife back with him as well, because we got to see, once again, Beth Phoenix returning to WWE and do some amazing stuff in her Royal Rumble match. So we're going to get through all of it. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to go match by match. And I'm going to tell you why this is one of the best put together cards that WWE has ever done. So let's start there. WWE sometimes, even on fantastic cards and events, they take credit for, or they take a lot of shit rather, for match order, the building, and all of that type of stuff. They take shit for this because it's warranted. A lot of the times you'll have this weird order of matches that kind of step on each other. You'll have a match that probably was better suited for later on in the card, be the first night of the, we've seen it a million times, especially in the era of Roman Reigns. You put the wrong guy out front, or you end the show with the wrong guy, and it ruins the whole motherfucking flow of the card. Well, last night was perfectly constructed. I'm just going to go over just real quick the matches. We're going to go in more detail in a second, but look at the match order here. Falls Count Anywhere, Roman Reigns defeating Baron Corbin. Brilliant. You get that match out of the way, you put it right at the beginning, not a problem. Boom. No matter what happens, Reigns winning, which he did, or Corbin winning, there's still enough time where you wipe the palate clean, because you know the next match is going to be one of the two Royal Rumbles. It has to be early. You don't want it to kick off the show necessarily, because you want something to kind of get it going. And having a Falls Count Anywhere hardcore style match is a brilliant way to go about this. And that's exactly what they did. And, it wasn't anything special. Reigns and Corbin wasn't anything special, but it certainly wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It didn't have any of those hallmarks that we've gotten over time. Reigns is still getting, now he's getting primarily cheered. I'm not hearing any boos. The only boos that we heard last night of Roman Reigns when it looked like he was going to win the Rumble. That was the only time that we heard any boos of Roman Reigns last night, is when everybody started going, oh my God, they're going to do it to us again. They're going to fucking do it to us again. But they didn't. So brilliant on that stage as well. But having that match first and getting it out of the way, it just gives possibilities for the rest of the night without hindering. And let's be honest, it was the least important match on the card. A match that really didn't need to exist. And I wondered why it existed. Because they needed the perfect opening to the Royal Rumble. And it kind of was. You don't want to do too much, but you certainly don't want to do too little. Mediocrity is sometimes okay when it's the opening match, especially when it's a Falls Count Anywhere type of thing. And I will say, it was a middle-of-the-road match. I'd probably rate this match a 6.5, somewhere around there. 7 feels a little generous. We start getting into the 7s. But it is just as far as overall match quality, I think you can go a little bit higher than that, because I don't think it was a bad match at all. But I'm thinking in terms of effectiveness on the card, we'll give it a nice solid 6.5, just as the match sits as it is. When you put it at the beginning, you take it to an 8, because it's just smarter business to have that right off the bat. So then we go into the Women's Royal Rumble, which, look, I love the women's revolution. I love that women have been doing a lot of great things for a while. I love that WWE is pushing the women. I love that they're stepping up for the most part. But let's be honest here. The first 2 Women's Royal Rumbles have been gimmicks. They've been majorly gimmicks. From Ronda Rousey's return, debut in the first one at the end of the Royal Rumble match, stepping right on the throat of the winner, Asuka, to last year's very forgettable second iteration. You know, it was just one of those. It's a Rumble that doesn't feel like it's had an identity yet. It's a Rumble that doesn't feel like it's stamped itself. Well, consider last night stamped for the ladies because they balled out, plain and simple. They showed up, showed out, and said, this is what we can do. And they did it with a myriad of different things. We had the old gimmicks, the old things that we're typically used to seeing, you know, the returns, the surprises, but they also did it with stars that are up and coming. We had a lot of NXT. I think 13 NXT stars were in this match last night, and a lot of them I really have not been sold on at fucking all. At all. And the biggest name that I could think of is Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair has not done anything to get me captivated. NXT is the only product that I still religiously watch. And Bianca Belair is a channel turner to me. She's got great athleticism. Her presence is spotty, iffy at best. Her personality is just, I just hate her personality. I fucking can't stand it. And her hair makes me want to do what Alexa Bliss tried to do last night and rip it the fuck out. But I digress. Last night, she came into her own. Last night, she showed that not only is she a very, very gifted athlete, but she knows how to work. She really does. She did some great stuff in that match. Really smart storytelling, the use of the hair, the use of some of the other spots that she did, the taunting, the facial expressions. It was just very well done. A lot of eliminations. They made her look like a beast, and she performed accordingly. I kind of wish they would have kept her around longer, to be honest. You know, whenever you start off a Rumble, and we started it off with Alexa Bliss and Miss Bianca Belair, it kind of feels like you can go a little bit farther with them if they're the two right girls. And they were. They were last night. Thank you, Aeon, for the host. They were absolutely the two right women to start off last night, and it worked perfectly. They could have went a little bit farther. At times, especially when they were going right around the mid part of the Rumble, it kind of felt like Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog. One very fast catch-as-catch-can guy who's going to run circles around you, or in this case, girl, and one powerhouse who's going to throw you around and get all the spots that you need to get. And that's exactly what we saw out of those two. So it was cool to see that dynamic go back and forth for as much and as long as they did. I felt it could have went a little bit longer with those two. Then we talk about some of the things that happened as far as those moments that stop and make you go, ooh, Otis. And thank you, Makai, because that's exactly where I was going. Otis made this Rumble, just him appearing outside was epic. Very good use of camera angle. Mandy Rose, even though she has yet to pop yet, she is coming into her own. She's finding an audience. People are really starting to like her. I like her mainly. I'm not sure of her as a talented in-ring performer, but her look, and not just from her beauty, is dead fucking on. She's spot on with her presence. She's gorgeous, yes, but she's got this aura, this golden goddess aura about her at all times, which is really nice. And that's why the juxtaposition of Otis is so wonderful. So if you missed it, they had the hard camera station, the shot, and Mandy rolls out the ring, or actually she lands on the, she goes over the top rope, lands on the apron, and then we just see her kind of fall off the cliff. And we assume she's eliminated. And we hear a pop from the crowd. It's because when the camera changes angles, we see Otis somehow slipped his big ass underneath the ring and used himself as a yoga mat for Mandy Rose. And what a lucky guy to get that goddamn job, right? Holy shit. Who did he have to bribe to get that job? You know what? Here's what you're going to do. Otis, come here. Here's what you're going to do tonight. You're going to go into the ring, and then you're going to lay there, and Mandy Rose is going to fall right on top of you. Breast first. Okay, Vince. Best job he's ever had. I guarantee that. So Mandy lands right on him, and then she stands on him, and they have this really cute connection. He points up at her. She points back down at him. She just looked very appreciative and really hot in that moment and just pretty, and it was just a cool thing. We got to see so much personality in that little connection. I thought it was cool. I just thought it was very cool. It was a cooler spot than just catching her, which they would use for her elimination. Once again, putting in those seeds of ending the tenure of Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, which I think is long overdue. Because aside from their name, Fire and Desire, which is the best goddamn tag team name outside of Vicious and Delicious, baby. It's fantastic. But other than that, they're not a good tag team. They don't really have a great chemistry together. I do not feel they do at the very least. They seem like they're chummy, but that's about it. And it's time to go separate ways. I think good friends, better enemies. I think they're going to have a really nice enemy feud, which I'd really like to see. So then we get all this other stuff. Beth Phoenix. Beth Phoenix was arguably the star of the Rumble. When she came out and the way that she looked like she was in serious condition. She looked like she was in serious shape. She looked like the Glamazon. We've seen Beth return in the other Rumbles, but she didn't look like she did last night. You know what I mean? Last night, she looked like the Glamazon. She looked like Beth Phoenix was ready to return to full-time wrestling. And maybe she is. And we know a little bit more because someone else in her family is also ready to return to full-time wrestling. So, and not only did Beth have this wonderful run, but she also had the unfortunate accident. Now, I've gone back and watched this a couple of times. I thought it was Bianca catching Beth with an elbow. I really thought she hit her with a shiver into the back of the head, and then Beth goes back into the corner. Apparently, it was that. It was Beth that she went back into the corner way too hard, and she went. I can't see the spot. But apparently, she knocks her head on the ring post or the exposed metal on the turnbuckle. I'm not sure which. I can't see that. I've looked as much as I could. Cannot see it, but that's the reports. I don't know if they're just doing that to kind of protect Bianca Belair, but I thought it was her elbow that cracked her open. And you could see immediately when that happens in that spot, a referee caught it because the referee jumped right up on the apron and was like, I think you're busted open. And we couldn't even see the blood yet. And she's got a lot of thick blonde hair. So we couldn't even see what had happened yet. But we knew it was bad. Well, we knew it was bad because she looked a little groggy. And then the blood started to flow. Then it started to get on other people. Charlotte having to wear the crimson arm mask was kind of a cool visual. Blood is always, not always effective, but it typically can bring a lot out, especially when you already have an emotional, big friggin' thing going on, which she clearly had. It worked to it, and Beth was able to have a fantastic run in the Rumble because of it, and I think one of the more memorable people in there. But it was because of a lot of the athletes that she had around with her, and Twat brings up a really good point about Naomi. Naomi, who I have never been sold on, I've never been a big fan of, she balled out last night too. She looked fantastic. She looked great. The fro was eye-catching, and it was a cool thing to see with all of her neon and then this big 70s fro that she had going. It was just very cool. And she, once again, shows her incredible athleticism. But it feels like she put in a lot of work, too, while she was off doing... I don't know if she was hurt. I don't know if she was just supporting her manses while he was recovering from DUI. But regardless... it was cool to see her seem to once again just click last night and click with a lot of the other athletes that they had. We also got to see Toni Storm. We didn't get to see Io Shirai, unfortunately, so it looks like the knee tweak might be a legitimate thing, which is unfortunate. I really would have liked to have seen Io Shirai, especially with all the rumors of her not being happy in NXT. I would have liked to have seen her had a good moment last night. So... and then we go towards later in the match. Charlotte, I know Carl not being happy that Charlotte won, but I think Charlotte was the right winner. I really do. I think it just works. Now, the only issue that I have with it is you kind of paint yourself into the same old. Because now it seems like once again we're going to get a WrestleMania match with Charlotte and Becky, or Charlotte and Bayley, or Charlotte and Sasha, which is a little bit of a problem. But depending on how they do this, and I'm hoping the inclusion of Shayna Baszler last night, who looked like a rookie, by the way. And Ace Trainer Liam pointed this out on Twitter last night, how he didn't like the fact that Shayna Baszler fell into the same trap twice. Same trap twice. It looked like they may have botched the first attempt to eliminate Shayna, and then she came right back into it to be eliminated with the exact same move. That it could have been a botch, or it could have been WWE trying to play up Shayna's inexperience. I'm not sure which. I like it either way. It didn't really bother me. An elimination is an elimination at the end of the day, especially the final elimination. Shayna's so dominant that however you go out, however you get her out, it seems like a blessing, so it didn't really bother me. The one thing that I think a lot of people were arguing about back and forth was the Santino Marella thing. And unfortunately, it's hard to talk about the Santino Marella thing without going into like gender politics or is this right or acceptable. I will say this. It was funny. Seeing him come out as Santina and just seeing how fucking mad the other women were. And I think that was legitimate. Beth looked like she wanted to take a shit in the middle of the ring. Naomi looked like she wanted to get a sniper rifle and just blow off fucking Santina's dick. You know, it really seemed that way. There was a lot of anger because what's the point? What's the point of bringing in Santino Marella for a spot that a woman could have had from NXT or from the main roster? There were some notable absences. Sasha Banks being probably the biggest notable no-show. It just felt a little weird. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense because it doesn't vibe with what WWE is constantly trying to sell us. WWE, Stephanie McMahon, who goes on interviews with all these other women, she did it to Paige recently too. And then anytime that they misspeak or they don't say enough hyping up the women's division, Stephanie be right there to add, even outshining the men and things like that. She's constantly being a self-mark for this women's revolution because it means so much to the WWE. Then why the fuck would you have Santino Marella in there? It feels like they didn't learn a lesson from the James Ellsworth debacle. The James Ellsworth debacle is one of those things that took the momentum out of so many people's sails. It set Carmella back. I've never seen the WWE have to redo a motherfucking Money in the Bank before. They had to redo a Money in the Bank because of how bad and how big the backlash was, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So this was the exact same type of situation in a lot of ways, but let's try not to talk about it so seriously, shall we? You know, so I'm going to try and back away from that and not be too serious on it because it was funny. It was a funny spot. Him hitting himself in the neck with a cobra, which is funny to me because from a comedic standpoint, a female using the cobra, snake, dick, it's hilarious. That shit's fucking funny. But he eliminates himself, herself, whatever. And on we go. It wasn't a long spot, and sometimes the Rumble needs those type of moments. But I felt with Otis's involvement already, at least his was, it made sense. We didn't need Santino's, but still, wasn't too bad. It is what it was. It is what it is, baby. But we'll see how that goes further on. Is Santina going to get beaten up? I'm not 100% sure. Are they going to move that forward? I hope not. I hope they just kind of forget it and move on. So Charlotte wins the Royal Rumble, but I think everybody kind of won in the situation. A lot of women got put over last night. A lot of women got highlighted. And again, the match order was just right. Putting this in the second spot allows the rest of the night to go as planned. And if the women don't deliver, it gives you an opportunity to do something with the next match. The WWE SmackDown's Women's Championship. Bayley and Lacey Evans. I think this was a swing match. I think this match was put there deliberately because if the Royal Rumble sucks, if nobody gets into the women doing what they do, you can have this match go a little bit longer. You can have Bayley and Lacey actually do some stuff. You can have them showcase, if you think they're ready, of course, if you think they're capable, Lacey more than Bayley, but still, you could do what you want. And because they have the talent to do it, they do have the ability to be able to pull a better match off. But if the match goes the way that you expect it to go, like it did, the Royal Rumble absolutely delivered, well, then you can have the match that it became, a cooler. And look, the word cooler has a bad rep, right? It's like, man, this is a cooler. It must mean it sucks. No, a cooler is just designed to kind of allow emotions to settle back down after a big spot or a big match. Is it unfortunate at times when that happens to be a title match? Yeah, but the only non-title match or non-important match on the entire card was Reigns and McIntyre. And you can't have a Falls Count Anywhere match after a Royal Rumble. It's not going to work. Nobody's going to care, and everyone's going to just completely pull out of it. So I have absolutely no problems with the match order. It was smart. It made sense, and it allows for storylines to be built off of it because they didn't get the show out last night. The match was mediocre at best. At best. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. It didn't take away anything from Bayley or Lacey Evans, aside from Lacey continuing to look green. But it doesn't affect the pay-per-view, and that's the important thing. A cooler should never take away from the pay-per-view, and it's always important what you follow the cooler up with. And again, because of the matches that they had on the card, they were limited in their options. You know that each Royal Rumble is going to be over an hour, and it was. So you're limited on time for your other 2 hours. That's why you don't have this 8, 9, 10 card match card, because it's not going to work. You have 6 matches, and you know the 4 singles matches are going to have to be in a specific order and all do specific things. And this was the cooler. So the match after that had to be really important, had to be really good. The strap match for the WWE Universal Championship between The Fiend and Daniel Bryan. This is when the pay-per-view really started to turn that next level, you know. Up to that point, 3.5, maybe touching the 4-star area just because of how well balanced the first 3 matches were. But this is when it starts taking it to that next level as far as an overall pay-per-view. Daniel Bryan got the best performance out of Bray Wyatt, period. This was the absolute best performance that Bray Wyatt has ever given as The Fiend or not as The Fiend. He was great last night. They got rid of that goddamn red light. They allowed these two to focus on brutality. They allowed them to focus on story. Look, strap matches are hard. When you're attached to each other and you can only go so far, there's not a lot that you can do. So to see these two do what they did and have this wonderful storytelling, Daniel Bryan feeding off the crowd, really taking it to The Fiend. I called it right before. If you were a part of the live reaction last night, I called it. It looked like Daniel Bryan was going to get the win, and then I just knew, here comes The Fiend, about to pop right up, and he did. Almost on cue. Popped up, and that look, that turn that Daniel Bryan had when he turned around and he slowly looked at The Fiend, that was a great fucking moment. It wasn't fear in Daniel Bryan's eyes, it was inevitability. The inevitability that knows that you're fucked, but keep fighting anyway. And that was the arc of this story. Daniel Bryan coming back clearly outmatched by The Fiend in every way inside the ring, but never stop fighting. Never giving up, continuing to go right to the end. That's why we love Daniel Bryan. That's why we love him, and that's what worked. It was a really good way to have the match, and it was a good way to end this story. Because I gotta feel that this is the end of The Fiend and Daniel Bryan. And now, this gives The Fiend, as a WWE champion, a marquee victory. That marquee victory. Because now, he can really tout that list of people that he's gone after. He has destroyed everybody on his wall. And apparently, Kane might be the next guy. If that's the case, maybe Daniel Bryan's not done in this anyway. It's possible that they might still get a little bit more story out of Daniel Bryan as he's kind of in the corner of Kane. We'll see if they decide to do that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd be okay with it as long as it's not Daniel Bryan continuing to go after The Fiend, because he's been beaten soundly twice. It's time to move on and do something else with Daniel Bryan, and there are options, so it's not really that big of a deal. But The Fiend now opens up a whole nother world. A whole nother realm, building to WrestleMania to see what's going to happen is going to be quite interesting. I'm excited to see what they decide to do. So we'll see how that goes. After that, we get Becky Lynch defeating Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. Now, this match didn't have to be on the same caliber or the same scope as Daniel Bryan and The Fiend, but it kind of was. A way better match than I thought we were going to get. It had a really slow build to it. I think it probably could have had 3 or 4 more minutes. How about those 2-3 minutes they gave to the fucking Street Profits for no reason? They could have gave to that match, and I think it would have allowed it to go to another level. Asuka looked really, really good last night. One of her better performances, too. Becky looked like a legitimate champion. Becky, we haven't seen a lot of good out of Becky, I feel, in a while. I think Becky is kind of just fallen off the radar quite a bit. But I really enjoy what she did last night. I thought she just worked a really solid match. The women showed up. Again, the women showed up, and they really did a very good job. It could have been a little bit more. I think the end spot was really smart. But I noticed one kind of negative thing on WWE's part last night. Is that me, or was the production really sloppy? At times. Not the entire show, but at times. They were focusing on crowd reactions so much that they missed a bunch. They missed Edge's best spear of the whole fucking night, his first 2. They missed that because they were just fucking meandering around the crowd. And they did this with the Asuka and Becky match. We didn't really get to see very well from the right angle, I would say. Becky knocking right into Asuka's stomach, thus releasing the green mist. That was a really cool spot. Becky learning from the past, learning from how Asuka has been winning matches to blow out that green mist was a really smart KG move that I wish would have had a little bit better of a fucking moment to catch. I wish they would have been able to catch it a little bit better and thus making it a little bit more important. But that's a nitpick. I'm willing to admit that's a nitpick. But I don't think it's a major nitpick. You know what I mean? Still, I liked it. Becky winning makes a lot of sense. I would have liked to have seen Asuka win just because I love Asuka. And I feel that she's going to leave, you know, and I want to see her stick around. I'm also kind of tired of Becky, but still, this reinvigorated me. It's a little troublesome that, again, we're only focusing on Bayley, Becky, and Charlotte. That's the biggest knock I think that you can make of the women's division right now. That once again, going into WrestleMania season, it's these same women again. It's like if you have an entire division that you're so proud of, let's start focusing. You got to put the rocket on somebody. They could have done it with Shayna. They also could have done it to where Charlotte doesn't win either. Shayna and Charlotte take each other out, and thus bringing the 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen story into play for WrestleMania. So this is kind of telling me that maybe Ronda's not returning anytime soon after all, which was a heavy rumor. Heavy rumor that Ronda was not only going to return, but return last night. Now, who knows? It might be another year. We might be waiting another year for Ronda, maybe SummerSlam, but I don't see WrestleMania now. I mean, she's got no reason. Is there Money in the Bank before WrestleMania? I believe there is, right? Is Money in the Bank the next pay-per-view? Because that's a possibility, I guess, which isn't a stupid idea by WWE by any stretch. Let's see here. I'm looking at it. So no, there is no Money in the Bank. We've already had it. So it's Royal Rumble, then NXT TakeOver Portland, then Elimination Chamber. So Elimination Chamber is a chance to kind of shake stuff up, but that's it. That's it. When was Money in the Bank? It feels like we hadn't had Money in the Bank, but I guess we did already. It just feels like it hasn't happened. But still, regardless. So it's going to be, they have a chance to kind of fix this mess a little bit, but we'll see what they decide to do. I'm just not sure if people are going to care about another Becky, Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha WrestleMania. So yeah, I did see what Rhonda posted on Instagram. She loves fucking with people, man. She likes the troll. All right, let's talk about the reason why everybody was super excited about last night and what made the Royal Rumble a true success. The fact that the Royal Rumble really was the special attraction. And it was. You guys can go ahead and get in the Discord if you want to talk about anything that happened last night. If not, we're going to talk about this final match, final thoughts, and then we're going to get the F up out of this piece. Wow. The Men's Royal Rumble took us on a ride. It took us on a journey, an unexpected one. So everybody was confused and questioning, why was Brock the number one person in the match? Why was he in the match in the first place? He's the champion who has not defended his title. Like, when did he defend his title? When did it happen? It feels like he hasn't. He's never around. It's turned into the same thing with Brock that it always is. He's never on television. And that title has just become completely meaningless. And it sucks. It sucks. I hate it. I hate that we don't have champions. I hate that we don't have that big, shiny ring to entice everybody to move forward. You know, and Brock being super arrogant was a smart idea. I didn't know if I liked the idea. Brock bearing the entire division, saying that nobody could possibly take him on. So this left all of these rumors about maybe Tyson Fury coming out, or which wouldn't have made any sense considering he's preparing for a pretty big fight. So they wouldn't have took that risk. I didn't think about it at that time. But Cain Velasquez, who I believe was advertised, doesn't show. Neither does Kane. Neither does Rusev. Neither does Bobby Lashley, all of which they just kind of explained off or didn't explain at all. And it allowed for more surprises, which turned out to be a pretty cool thing for the Rumble. So Brock starts the match. And one thing I noticed, man, all 13 of his eliminations, I want to say almost every fucking one of them, every one of them was over 40 years old. Like every single person except Elias. Elias was the youngest guy that they had. Everybody else was 40 and up, which I'm not saying is necessarily a problem or anything, but it was interesting to see how they use these guys who have been around for as long as they have as cannon fodder. Keith Lee is also somebody who was eliminated a little bit early, who's not older either, but that's really it. Aside from those two, there's really not a whole hell of a lot of youth that was in those first, you know, they threw Morrison away, you know, they got rid of Morrison and stuff. So it was interesting to see how they decided to do it. While we were watching it live last night, I know a bunch of us were saying, man, this needs to, this needs to not go too long. But I got to be honest, when we got past 8 and 9 eliminations for Brock, I got more excited because we haven't seen this before. This is something we have not seen. Domination in the Royal Rumble of that level. It's something that they typically shy away from. You want to see a lot of people in the match. You want to see a lot of people fill up. You want to see different matchups, different variations. But we didn't. And it wasn't a bad thing. It really wasn't. It was just a cool thing that they decided to build to the middle of the match to really make it special. I'm with you, GunCannon, on the Keith Lee thing. I don't care about Braun at this point. Braun is there as a spectacle and nothing else. Keith Lee, maybe it's too early. Now, I'm with CM Punk, and I would have liked to have seen Keith Lee win the Royal Rumble just in theory because you want to see this guy get showcased properly because he's so good, and WWE has such a bad track record of gilding the fucking lily for far too long, Aleister Black, and just making people forget about you, Ricochet, and not care about you anymore. Basically, everybody else who ever came from NXT. It's a little bit of a worry because Keith Lee really does seem special. Keith Lee, from a in-ring talent standpoint, a physical attribute standpoint, and a personality standpoint, might be the closest thing we've had to that next level transcendent superstar in 15 years. You know, it's like he has got everything, but it does feel, Finn Balor, another fantastic one that they fucking just, but he also had injuries, to be fair. But Keith Lee, it just feels like if you miss the boat on this guy, you're going to miss it forever. But having him there was very cool. And it's still, maybe just shows not quite yet. So they used him more as a spectacle last night, but because of what happened afterwards, because of what happened with Drew, this is what made sense. It made perfect sense because you don't want to take too far away. Drew was the real story last night. We could talk about Edge to the cows come home. It's my personal favorite moment in the past. I don't even know, man. Maybe since he retired. It was one of my all-time favorite Royal Rumble moments, period. Even though I was pretty sure it was going to happen. It was still so cool to see Edge with the emotion on his face come out at, I believe, number 21 and just rock the whole fucking place. And then take bumps, give bumps, huge moves, shots to the head, like triple fusion fucking surgery. The guy's already Hall of Famer. He's in his mid 40s. He doesn't need to come back, but he wanted to come back. And he looked like he was able to come back, which is very important because being at that age and being with those issues, especially triple neck fusion surgery, it's very easy to think that you'll never be the same. And it looked like he may have gassed out, but I also feel that they were kind of using him in the right way, so it wasn't too much. It was just really smart. But let's not get it twisted. Drew was the story. This was Drew McIntyre's Royal Rumble. It wasn't Brock's. It wasn't Edge's. It wasn't anybody else's. And it wasn't Keith Lee's. It was about Drew McIntyre. And this is why it was smart to do. This is why it was smart to have that opening with Brock Lesnar. This is why it was smart to have Keith Lee kind of, get knocked out of the Rumble and all of this. It just worked. And let's talk about it, too, because the storytelling was so brilliant. So you have... and the use of Ricochet was also very good. So you have Brock eliminate 13 motherfucking people. And then Ricochet comes out. He gets tossed around, shit whipped pretty well. And then what does he do? He goes and he fucking kicks Brock Lesnar in the dick, which has been a tactic that a lot of people have used against the Brock. And then McIntyre wipes his fucking ass out with a Claymore, knocking him out of the ring. So first, I want to talk about Brock Lesnar. Brock was brilliant. Brock worked perfectly last night. He was vicious. He was funny. He was loose, dancing to MVP's music, the spot with Shelton, all of it. It just worked. He was locked the fuck in, and he showed that he is an entertainer, that Brock is the full package. And by the way, Brock Lesnar may be one of the greatest athletes that's ever walked on this fucking planet. For his size, his ability, I can't think of anyone anywhere close to him, especially with the fact that he's now like 40 fucking years old. You know what I mean? Like, this is special, and he doesn't age. He doesn't look younger. I wish he'd not skip leg day, because I think he skips leg day a little bit too much. But goddamn, does he look incredible? He really does. And he put on a fantastic performance. He was dominant, and they were smart with using the dick kick. They were really smart for that goddamn dick kick. And Ricochet really used that moment to set up McIntyre, and boom, McIntyre becomes a star. And it's what McIntyre did after. Not taking this is so important. It's such nuanced and important storytelling. He became the hunter last night. We've seen him use the hunter type thing before. I'm going to go monster hunting and all type of stuff. Well, he went beast hunting. Because even after he knocked Brock out of the ring, I think most of us expected, and I think some people even said it in the chat, Brock motherfucking, and by the way, erection, I don't think Brock has ever in his life touched a steroid. You look at his body, that ain't a steroid body. That's a fucking Minnesota cornbread, fucking country fed, farmhand working goddamn body. That's all it is. I don't believe a steroid has ever touched that man. Except for that one time in UFC where it kind of did. Except for the one time in UFC where it kind of did. So as much as I want to make fun of you, you're not 100% wrong. But I think for the most part, Brock is clean. I think for the most part, Brock is clean. I think he's clean at this point of his life. And by the way, we still don't know what Brock took in that case with the UFCs. But still, I don't think he's on roids. And I don't think he was on roids, especially when he was a collegiate athlete. I don't believe it for a second. But yes, he did have that moment in the UFC where he kind of got caught. Mark Hunt. Poor Mark Hunt. Poor Mark Hunt. Poor Mark. I know, fake. I'm making a joke, fake. I'm making a fucking joke. I'm making a joke, fake. Jesus H. Christ. Hear the entire fucking thing before you start shitting on me in the chat. Good Lord. Anyways, so moving on from all that, having Drew do that incredible thing that he did and keeping his eyes on Brock, because we all expected Brock to come back into the ring and eliminate him, and that would have been really interesting to see what happened there, because it's like they could have set up, if they were going to have another Royal Rumble winner and the match wasn't going to be about Drew McIntyre, it would have been very, very interesting to see what they would have done, because you could have just set up the match. That's why I was very confident that Roman Reigns was not going to win, because they already have a perfect setup with motherfucking The Fiend. So they don't need him to win the match. He was just there to kind of set everybody off. And it worked. It worked. So they could have done the exact same thing. They could have had another guy win the Royal Rumble, Edge. Edge could have won the Royal Rumble, and they could have set up Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre by having Brock just take out Drew. But instead, Drew shows that he's grown up. Drew shows that he's a man. Drew kept his eyes on Brock Lesnar, and Brock had to retreat through the crowd because he didn't have an opportunity to get back into the match to take out Drew, because Drew kept his eyes on him. That's amazingly good storytelling. Amazingly good storytelling. Just too good a storytelling. It was just fantastic. And then it carries on to the rest of the night. Thank you, Terry Snow Queen, for the host. Carries on through the rest of the evening. We get to see all these other guys come in. We didn't get another major surprise other than Edge, but it worked. We didn't need another surprise. Like, I was still hoping for like a little CM Punk action, but nah, not yet, you know. The coolest thing was the use of Seth Rollins. I loved the use of Seth Rollins. And I haven't loved this whole Messiah gimmick. Last night, it all made sense. Having the faction around him made a whole hell of a lot of sense. It really did. It was pretty cool. It was neat. They came and cleaned house, and they set up what they're going to be doing until WrestleMania, which was really smart. So Seth and his faction look like they're going to be going on a little bit of a warpath with Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens. It looks like Aleister Black now, and a fourth. Who knows who it's going to be yet? We're not 100% sure. It literally could be anybody, but that's pretty smart. Or maybe it'll be those three against AOP and Buddy Murphy, and somebody else will become as the new opponent for Seth Rollins. Maybe Roman. Maybe they'll find a way to cross over and have those two again. I'm not 100% sure how they'll do it, but you know, there's options. There's always options because it's WWE and nothing's off limits. So we'll see what they decide to do on that front, but it was still a really cool thing that they did. Made us, once again, swerve us, make us look like something else was going to happen, and then still keep the onus and the focus on the guy who ultimately wins, which was Drew McIntyre. And him getting the win over Roman with the elimination of Edge was smart. Eliminating Edge as Roman Reigns is perfect because it once again makes us feel like, oh no, not again. They haven't learned. He just eliminated Edge. What a piece of shit. He's going to win everything. And then Drew wins the match. It just perfectly set up everything. And it capped it off. There was no after. It was just all about Drew. Drew's got one of the coolest stories, I think, of any wrestler that in the modern era. Drew started off as the chosen one. He was a guy who everybody knew had talent. He got to work personally with Vince McMahon. He had a weird look because he was a little bit thinner back then, a lot a bit thinner back then. He was dolphin smooth. He had like no hair on any of his body. He looked like a boy. He had a weird outfit going on. He just looked like a boy, and that was it. And then, you know, this happens. He gets the rocket ship strapped onto his back. He's the chosen one. Then he goes to 3MB, where he starts to look a little bit grittier. He starts to look a little bit more mannish, but still just out of place. You know, it was just fodder. And then he gets fired. And he goes out into the world, and he goes and makes a name for himself. He goes back home. He goes across the pond once again, and he rebuilds. He allows hair to grow on his chest, and he becomes a fucking man. He puts on about 30 pounds of solid dick pumping muscle and just starts whomping asses. Comes to NXT, makes an immediate impact. Goes up to WWE and once again gets forgotten. Once again becomes a crony to Shane McMahon and countless fucking others. He becomes nothing more than a lackey most of the time. And then the strangest thing starts to happen. They realize that he's not necessarily a full-blown ultra heel, that people want to root for him. So let's start going the tweener route a little bit more. Let's start relaxing the restrictions on him. And then he starts going on this wonderful little run. Perfectly timed. It wasn't a long build before the Rumble for him. He's only been building slightly. And then the pop-off at the Rumble. It just feels like now he's got these next 2 months to take it to another level, to another place, to become everything that we expect him to be. And he did it because of the stuff that he did in the Rumble. It started with that wondrous spot with Brock Lesnar. And we're going to remember that because there's no question that Drew will be taking on Brock for the Universal Championship. We know it's going to happen, and it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I think it's a great main event, and it feels like a main event, and Old School Matt is 100% right. Drew is finally the chosen one. Brock Lesnar can finally main event WrestleMania, like legitimately. And the last time that he did that was where it felt like it was a real fucking legitimate main event was the match with Roman, where it turned Suplex City. Suplex City, when Suplex City was born and Seth Rollins was the third man in, that was the last time that it felt it was important. And now this feels important because if it goes the way that it should, okay, not the Universal Championship, WWE Championship. I forgot they did the switch. You got me there, Erection. Good for you. I forgot they did the switch of titles. The WWE Championship. Excuse me. I forget because they made that fucking Universal Championship look like Bray Wyatt's fucking face, and you forget that it's the Universal title. So, doesn't matter. WWE Championship. It's the same fucking thing. It's the Raw Championship, so it's the most important title in the company regardless. So, if they do this right, Drew becomes the man. Drew becomes the most important guy in the company. He's the guy who actually does slay the beast. This might be it for Brock. We don't know how much longer Brock's going to want to stick around. This might be, we've been asking, when is the real blow-off for Brock? Brock's had such a dominant stretch. Even when he's lost the title to like Seth Rollins and such, it was never for long. They love playing games with us, winning the Money in the Bank, the trolling, all of what they've done has all led and extended this 6-7 year build that we've been waiting for the fall of Brock to finally happen. And now it looks like they've set it up perfectly to do it at the show of shows. And it's going to be amazing. Exactly. Drew McIntyre is ready to kill the beast once and for all. Fucking fantastic. And that's good storytelling. GunCannon says on Graves' podcast, Drew said he was finally allowed to be himself, and that was where he started to become a more recognized wrestler. Things like the countdown to the Claymore were things that he did. Did the writers didn't, not the writers' direction. I like that. Fake. Drew will beat Brock, and then Brock will somehow get the title back and go into WrestleMania 37 with the title, and we'll need to find a next person to beat Brock, and so on and so forth. I don't think so. I hope not, because then all of this was for nothing. That means Drew really wasn't the guy. Based off last night and how they built Drew, that's not how it felt to me. This felt like one of those main star building moments. You don't always have things like that. To build the story that they did took time. It took effort. Brock going and eliminating the first 13 people in the Royal Rumble, something we've never seen before, that took time. That took a little bit of a gamble. They could have lost the crowd. If that's in another stadium with a different crowd, they might lose the crowd. But I have to believe, because of the chances that they took, because of the story that they decided to tell, that this is that Austin moment, that HBK moment. You know what I mean? Where we know we just saw a guy become the next guy. That John Cena moment. You know, we know what those moments look like, and that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. Will it be? I don't know. Only time will tell. Because you might be right, Fake. Brock might come back and win it again. And then where are we? Hopefully, Brock will go over and be the next guy for The Fiend. If Roman doesn't get the job done against The Fiend, the Beast going to SmackDown and taking on Bray Wyatt would be The Fiend versus the Beast. Gets my dick hard. But he doesn't need to be the top guy in the company anymore. He can go be that secondary guy in SmackDown and help put people over. And that would be a lot of fucking fun to see, because the matchups there are very intriguing. But Drew being the guy on Raw, being the main guy in the company, I think it works. I think it makes sense. And I think it's why last night's Royal Rumble is one of the best I've ever seen. Between Beth and Edge and Otis and the amazing spot with Mandy, between The Fiend and Daniel Bryan delivering, between Asuka and Lynch, and then that incredible Royal Rumble match with the men did. It's one of my favorite Royal Rumbles of all time. And I think that Royal Rumble match itself, the men's Royal Rumble match, is in my top 3 to 5. It was that good. It was that good. At least that's my opinion. So I turn it over to you guys. What's your opinion on the Royal Rumble? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Was it something that was special to you? I see nobody's in waiting to call, so I'm going to go ahead and close down the Discord. You guys can suck on my schlong. Suck on my schlong. And we will get up out of here. I had a lot of fun last night. I was live for the entire pay-per-view. We had 20 minutes on YouTube. And yes, this if you're watching this on YouTube right now, fuck you. Fuck you. You guys voted on a poll yesterday. You voted for a poll for, I put up, where do you guys want me to do this motherfucking reaction? Do you want it on YouTube or do you want it on Twitch? 65%, whatever it was, of 45 people chose YouTube. Nobody showed up. Nobody showed up. First 20 minutes of the review gone, or the reaction gone, because nobody showed up. 5 to 7 people showed up. And I could have stuck out a little bit longer. I waited 20 minutes, but I said, fuck it. And I came over to Twitch, and we had 30 people in here by the end of the show. It was awesome. We had so much fun, and you guys kept me absolutely enthralled, enthused, and engaged, and I say thank you. I needed to feel that way again so badly about wrestling, and you guys made it happen. So I hope you enjoyed it. I did too. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, make sure you check me out over on Twitch, because that's where all the live stuff is happening from this day forth. The death of YouTube with Dead on Dave is officially happened. That is now officially just my support channel. That's where my clips are going. That's where this shit's going. I'm not going to use it for any more special events. We're building Twitch, and that is it. So speaking of, we'll be live again here on Twitch in just a little bit. We're going to do some game streaming. Don't know what I want to play yet. I might jump into the realm. I haven't quite decided. We'll figure that out. I appreciate you guys. Have yourselves a fantastic night. Make sure you keep the conversation going. Tell me what you thought about the Royal Rumble, and we will see you. And yes, Old School Matt, find me over on Byte, because I'm going to be the next Byte superstar. And I think I put out my best Byte video today. I think that shit was hilarious. Go check it out. Girl, I bet you would. We'll see you next time. Keep it copious, folks. And remember, as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends. Long live Drew McIntyre. Good night.